Stranger Things has been a scary watch for the fans, and if they could have it so intense, we can agree that the cast had the most brutal time filming those scenes. David's weight loss. Seeing David Harbour, who played Hopper, lose a load of pounds and having many references throughout season 4 referring to his weight loss isn't coincidental, as it was a carefully planned prosthetic makeup on the actor. Barry explained that even David, who most fans would think didn't need much makeup, spent about 2.5 hours on the chair in order to get the prosthetics on his face. Although the makeup went unnoticed throughout the scenes in the flashback of season 3 and the scenes of season 4, many would have sworn that the weight loss was a natural procedure to fit into the story. But in reality, David had to go through some tough things to make the story real. Barry admitted that David's prosthetics were in some ways more demanding than Vecna's when he said, "In a way, it's almost more stressful than doing Vecna because you have to seamlessly hide the makeup on his face. You had nowhere to hide." If Barry could say this, then the fans should know that it was the most brutal experience for the actor involved. Sealed mouth. Seeing how Christopher Strand's mouth was sealed could be a first attempt to understand the brutality that Stranger Things 4 warned the fans about in the early episodes of the season. The scene which shows the character Chrissy in a vision and trying so hard to make sense of what she was experiencing before seeing her father, played by Christopher, with his mouth sewn shut and his eyes looking all distressed, was a very scary one for the viewers and the actor as well. The head makeup artist of the series, Amy Forsyth, explained the brutality Christopher suffered on set when she explained that the actor couldn't speak or see, and that all that he could do was hear, as his mouth and eyes were covered in prosthetics and he had to be taken to the scene with little sensory organs to make out what was going on around him. Amy said that the best way to communicate with him was through nodding to a yes or no question, so as to be able to make him get the desired comfort to get through the scene. She also jokingly mentioned how the only way to pass information as little as lunchtime was to tell him when he said, "When we were breaking for lunch, I was like, you better let him know that he's done for the day before you call lunch, because he might be sitting there thinking that you're abandoning him." Making Noah cry. The scene where Eleven gets embarrassed by Angela and has a milkshake tossed on her clothes can never be forgotten, as Millie admitted the brutality shook her. The scene that came about after Mike visited Eleven and Will and they decided to hang out at the roller rink without any knowledge of Angela being present was one of the worst for the actress. Millie described how she felt while shooting the scene, and she said, "I remember about 50 people laughing at me and pointing at me. I remember feeling really distressed and really sad." Then she made an even more shocking revelation of how the scene didn't only affect her but also her colleague Noah, who felt the brutality and had to cry even though he wasn't part of the script. She said, "Noah cried, which is insane. I don't know if anyone knows that," before proceeding to address Noah directly in the interview by saying, "But you actually got really upset. Do you remember that? You weren't meant to cry in the scene. You just got naturally really emotional because it was actually quite distressing to watch." In the end, though, Eleven got her sweet revenge against Angela, but the shooting of that scene was a really brutal one, not just for Eleven, who was the character, but also for Millie, who was doing the portrayal. Multiple filming locations. It was a long and most intense experience for the Stranger Things cast while filming, as not only did the shooting last for 3 wholesome years, but the cast of mostly young actors were also actively moving from one location to another. Millie Bobby Brown, who plays Eleven, has described the making of season 4 as being the most difficult and the most demanding. The actress, who made it known while appearing on an episode of Hot Ones from First We Feast on YouTube, said, "We filmed for 3 years, especially with the amount of filming that we had to do. We were filming in 3 different places: Lithuania, New Mexico, and Atlanta, and it was very difficult. Moving could be very straining and unpleasant, but then the cast had to go through that to bring on a great performance for the fans." Vecna's transformation. The iconic transformation from Henry to Vecna is going down as one of the best changes ever witnessed in the history of filmmaking. And all of that happened due to the brutal hours of sitting a number of prosthetics that the actor Jamie Campbell Bower had to endure on the set of Stranger Things 4. The brutal process, which has now been documented in a short clip, showed the actor Jamie sitting for long hours as the prosthetics were being applied. The celebrated makeup artist in charge of the transformation, Barry Gower, said that Jamie wore dentures over his own teeth to create the dirty look on Vecna, and also wore full scleral contact lenses before he made a joke by saying, "There wasn't anything else we could get on Jamie." Barry also explained that usually for characters like Vecna, there's always a stand-in with the same stature who will help ease the brutality on the main actor, so as to help make the whole process less tedious. But he said that wasn't the case with Jamie, Jamie, as he did everything himself and did the stunts and voice changes all by himself too. Barry further described what Vecna had to wear on his body in a simpler explanation that says, "He's covered from head to toe in prosthetics. There are about 24 to 25 different appliances that sort of overlap each other. Everything's glued and adhered to the skin with a medical adhesive." Another brutal aspect of the prosthetic application was the takeoff part, as Barry warned that taking off the makeup would actually be very bad for the first skin layer if not done professionally, and so Jamie had to sit through another hour to get it removed from his body before they could call it a day. The makeup artist commended Jamie for his endurance and for pushing himself to be more on the set despite the brutality he went through in playing his part. The sad speech. While the show's fans and makeup artist may believe that the most difficult scene for the actor David Harbour was with his prosthetic application, the actor believes otherwise, as he responded to Terry Schwartz, Netflix Geekend host, on his most difficult scene in Season 4. David, who was made to choose between the scenes where he was preparing to fight the Demogorgon or where he made a sad speech about being a curse to his loved ones, picked the latter. He gave his reasons as to why he chose that to be, because he had been with the script 3 years before actually filming the part, and he had been preparing for it ever since. Living with such a sad part of the script had been one of David's most brutal experiences on set. The sad speech was said in Volume 1, when Hopper was telling the Russian guard, Dmitri, how he felt responsible for what happened to his daughter, and that he didn't think he deserved a good life with Eleven and Joyce. David described the problem of staying so long with such a sad monologue when he said, "They wrote that monologue 3 years ago, and I sat there waiting to deliver it for about 2 years during all of lockdown, and it's a strange thing to live with a monologue." Hair melting issue. Mostly for Eleven, it would have been a really brutal experience to have her hair shaved again for Stranger Things 4 after all she experienced while on the set of Season 1. But since the actress portraying the role, Millie, now has a lot going on for her in the film industry, it's been a hell of a decision not to go for a low cut but a wig instead. Getting the short wig over Millie's back-length hair was a hard process, and it took more than 1 hour to try and fit in the hair and make it appear all natural. The hairstylist, Sarah Hinskull, was able to make her hair transformation from Millie's to Eleven's happen due to her determination. Even though the Duffer Brothers doubted its possibility. Sarah said, "I was very scared about going short enough. I kept on getting it a little bit longer, just so we could have a little bit of hiding space for the layers around her ears and on her nape. You could see the lace of the wig because the hair is so short." The hairstylist then said the Duffer Brothers were outrightly coming on set to reject it before seeing how great it looked and decided to give it a try. She explained how difficult it was to get all that hair flattened when she said, "There was a lot of hair that had to be flattened underneath. Nobody wanted her to look like she had a cocoon head." It must have been a very cool alternative to having her head shaved off, but then it's a lot of work and endurance to melt all her hair away under a very tiny wig, and it's a brutality that no one would have thought. Those are the 7 brutal things the actors had to endure on set. What do you think of them? Let us have your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching.